The leaders of Austria and Hungary have pledged to closely cooperate to challenge the EU's migration policy. Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz, whose government is backed by a far-right party, met with Viktor Orban to discuss the closure of the Balkan migration route and the security of the EU's borders. Orban said if we want Schengen, external borders must be closed and internal borders open. What's happening nowadays is they want to open the outer borders and close the internal ones. That's the exact opposite to what we call Schengen. Kurz said, a key task of the EU, of us as member states, must be to stop illegal migration into Europe and to develop aid in the countries of origin. Only distributing refugees across Europe does not work. But the neighbors differ on several other issues. Budapest has criticized an Austrian plan to cut child benefits for foreign workers, while Austria opposes Hungary's expansion of its Pax nuclear power plant. Our correspondent says disagreements remain. Chancellor Kurz said Austria still opposes the Pax power plant and it wants to take the issue to the European Court of Justice.
The UK government says a leaked Brexit impact report will not be made public. MPs from most main parties across Britain, including the ruling Conservatives and Labour opposition, have pulled together to call for the whole report to be published. But Brexit Under-Secretary Steve Baker said the document had not been finalised and its release in full could harm divorce discussions with the EU. The document predicted an economic blow to the UK, regardless of a hard or soft Brexit being negotiated. But Conservative MP Jacob Rees-Mogg disagreed.
These forecasts come from the same source as the rotten forecasts made before the vote to leave. The Treasury at that point said that unemployment would rise between 500 and 800,000. This turned out to be nonsense. Bad forecasters come up with bad forecasts. So to think you have any idea where the economy will be in 15 years is erroneous.
The report forecasts scenarios ranging from exiting the bloc with no deal to remaining within the EU single market, a prospect pro-Remain MPs are avidly backing.
Delegates at a Syrian peace conference in Sochi have called for respect for the country's territorial integrity and said that Syrian people alone should decide the shape of their government. The conference agreed to create a constitutional committee which will work in Geneva, and a list of 150 participants has been drawn up, 2/3 from the government side and 1/3 representing the opposition. Russia's special envoy on Syria, Alexander Lavrentiev, told Euronews what had been achieved. He said the main result of this Congress is the reloading of the political process, so it could really help Stefan de Mistura to find a rational element in order to relaunch the constitutional reform, because before all the efforts on this direction were useless. The final decision on who will work on the constitutional reform will be taken by UN envoy Stefan de Mistura. Euronews reporter in Sochi, Galina Polonskia, explained the uneasy dialogue has happened in Sochi. The list of the candidates to the Constitutional Commission will be given to Stefan de Mistura. The Congress asked the UN to speed up the process of the reform, but no deadline has been given.
Galina Polonskaya, Euronews, Sochi.
Democratic lawmakers wear black as President Donald Trump delivers his first State of the Union address. In contrast, breaking with tradition by arriving separately from her husband, First Lady Melania Trump made a statement by wearing an all-white suit. Without saying the president's name, Joseph P. Kennedy III delivered the official Democratic Party response, chastising the Trump administration for what he said was its abandonment of the fundamental American values.
We are bombarded with one false choice after another. Coal miners or single moms? Rural communities or inner cities? The coast or the heartland? As if the mechanic in Pittsburgh, a teacher in Tulsa, and a daycare worker in Birmingham are bitter rivals, rather than mutual casualties of a system forcefully rigged towards those at the top.
Standing in front of an old car with its hood propped up, Mr. Kennedy finished his speech to the cheering audience by asking the American people to have faith and assured them that the state of the country is hopeful, resilient and enduring.
On foreign policy, President Trump took aim at North Korea. He described the regime as depraved and said its reckless pursuit of nuclear weapons could soon threaten the United States.
Past experience has taught us that complacency and concessions only invite aggression and provocation. We need only look at the depraved character of the North Korean regime to understand the nature of the nuclear threat it could pose to America and to our allies.
The president also vowed to continue fighting Islamic State militants, pointing out that the group has lost most of its territory in Syria and Iraq. He also took a swipe at China and Russia, branding them as rivals in a new era of global competition. After the Speaker of the Catalan Parliament postponed plans to invest Carles Puigdemont as president, the former leader has insisted that the Spanish government must not be allowed to take control. Earlier, Roger Torrens said that the ex-president remains the only candidate able to form a government. Madrid said it won't allow Puigdemont to return to office, but he remains defiant. The decision of the people of Catalonia on the 21st of December is unappealable, he said. We don't want Madrid to take temporary control of Catalonia. We don't want to be forced to apply policies that don't represent the will of the people. We don't want to continue to be oppressed because of our ideas. Large numbers of pro-independence protesters demonstrated outside the Parliament building on Tuesday afternoon in support of Puigdemont. The latest situation follows a court ruling that the session would be suspended unless Carles Puigdemont attended in person with the prior approval of a judge. Separatists in southern Yemen have taken control of the port city of Aden after 2 days of fighting, confining the government to the presidential palace. Fighting between southern separatists, backed by the United Arab Emirates, against forces loyal to Saudi-based President Abdurrahman Mansour Hadi risks crippling the once-united campaign against Iran-backed Houthis in the north. Residents said forces loyal to the Southern Transitional Council have seized the last stronghold of Hadi's presidential protection forces in northern Aden. Crowds chanted slogans demanding the restoration of the southern state, and activists shared photos on social media of them flying the flag of the former independent state over the base's gate.
Ukraine has tested a cruise missile capable of delivering precise hits on ground and seaborne targets. Authorities did not reveal the range of the locally made missile, but said it was in line with the country's international agreements. It was the first test, but it's very important for us. Why? Because after complete disarmament, which happened after the Budapest Memorandum was signed, no cruise missile remained in service in Ukraine. Today we opened a new stage of the missile program. Ukraine has been battling Russian-backed separatists in the east in a conflict that erupted after Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. Kiev has committed to spending 5% of the country's gross domestic product on defence. The name of the missile hasn't been confirmed, but it's thought to be based on a Soviet-designed subsonic anti-ship missile capable of sinking warships with displacements of up to 5,000 tons.
Interveniendo um momento para outro espaço comercial, agora no Back e Deporte.